Yeah, are we okay? Yeah, that's true. That's true. We don't want to get in trouble for serving. That's a pleasure. It's down on the agenda, one down. Oh, it is. I don't make any. There we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Manlius Planning Board. First item on our agenda is relative to the minutes of the meeting that was conducted on May the 9th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of May 9th.
Ann had her hand up before you, Arnie, sorry. Motion made, second, all in favor? Aye. Approved as written. The next item on our agenda is an application for Baranovsky Dental. This is located at 7211 East Genesee Street, Fayetteville. It is scheduled tonight for a public hearing. Madam Secretary, have we published no notice of the public hearing?
Yes.
Are there any requests for the reading of the notice?
I'll make a motion to raise the second.
Motion made by Ed Theobald and second by Richard. All in favor?
I will recuse myself from this.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
The reading of the notices is not mandated. Madam Secretary, as you are filling in relative to the, actually, just the seeker.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to proceed forward with the seeker before we open the public hearing.
Okay. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations?
No.
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of land use?
No.
No.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area?
No.
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
No.
No.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies,
No.
No.
public or private wastewater treatment utilities?
No.
No.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna?
No.
No.
Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
Okay, with little to small impact. I don't remember what Jamie says.
At this point, I would entertain a motion relative to a negative declaration. Made by Ann, second by Judy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Negative declaration relative to seeker. I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So move.
Second by Arnie. All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is hereby open for any individuals who wanted to discuss the dental office at 7211 East Genesee Street, Fayetteville.
Hearing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Are we okay on Zoom?
No hands up, so yes.
I'll second that motion.
That being the case, we have a motion made and second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is hereby closed. The First issue, we have two issues that we have to address. One is accessory use permit, and then the second one will be site plan. So with respect to the accessory use permit, we want to have a discussion on that?
I think the only thing that should be added, and I can't find the letter, but we did get something from Fayette Manor, the president of the HOA.
I was surprised they parked over there.
I was too.
Yeah.
And I think in the special use permit, we should have something that says employees cannot park on the roadway of Fayette Manor. They need to park in their parking lot.
It sounds like a very reasonable request.
Yeah,
Is that something where we should maybe post something there? Maybe talk to the.
We can talk to the town highway department, but whether they would post that or not,
It's our road, right?
that's them. But what we can do is that condition of the accessory use permit, we can require that the employees not park alongside the roadway. That would create a dangerous situation.
I was surprised they parked over
I was too. I can't find that letter, but I can.
know I
Yeah,
have
I read
it.
it.
Yeah, that's a letter.
Is there any reason that people would want to discuss this in more detail?
7 years.
7
Oh,
years.
yes.
7 years. That being the case, I would entertain a motion relative to the granting of the accessory use permit.
So moved. A second.
Moved by Richard, second by Edmund. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries relative to the granting of an accessory use permit. Next item on our agenda is site plan approval. Any requests for discussion of the site plan?
No, it's fun.
I think it's going to improve the looks of the building and the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Everything about it is good for the town.
I think it's going to decrease traffic flow too.
Yeah. it's the time.
Okay, I would entertain a motion relative to site plan approval.
I'll make motion for that. I'll second it.
Motion made by Ann, second by Judy, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Therefore, we are granting an accessory use permit. This is a 7-year duration. That is what we customarily do. We were adding one condition on that, that there shall be no parking by employees along the roadway on either side, either on the north or south portion of the roadway.
Or in the subdivision next door.
Fayette Manor, that's
That's
what
the
they're
letter.
concerned about.
Right.
Okay,
The Fayette Manor roadway.
are we all in agreement on that?
Yes.
Okay. So that will be the one condition attached. Is there somebody here on behalf of that applicant?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, all right. Well, your request is approved. We wish you luck with the office. It's something that's important for the town. And so far, what we've seen, you're going to be improving the appearance of the neighborhood. So we thank you for what your efforts are.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May the record reflect that council has now taken her seat again with the board. The next item on our agenda is an application by Guy Pittman. This is with respect to the development of 6985 Collimer Road, East Syracuse. It is scheduled this evening for a public hearing. Madam Secretary, have we published notice of a public hearing?
Yes.
And are there any requests for a reading of that
I'll make
notice?
the motion to waive the reading.
Motion to waive by Richard, second by Edmund. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Reading is waived. The next item on the agenda would be to proceed forward with seeker.
Can I just make one comment? Go there.
Richard, you can always make a comment.
I have 2 plans of this development. One has 6985, which is the proper address. The other one has 6430. Address. I just want to make sure, and this came in April 14th. This came in May. I just want to make sure as we move forward that the proper address and plan is in the file, the permit record.
Are you here for the applicant?
Yes, I am.
And is what he indicated correct as far as you're concerned?
There are two barns that went out. One is resident, you mentioned, and there's also the one at his appointment area, which is a common road. That's what we're talking about today.
Right. I thought there was one barn going on.
No, there's one going to his personal record.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But
It's not-
we didn't.
No, it's not.
It's not in front of us.
It's not here, just-
You're
It's not ready to.
you're confusing us by talking about something that's not in front of us.
It's just not being discussed.
Right.
The one that's in front of
That's
us,
the
I
next
believe
one.
is 6985.
It is.
Okay, so that's all I'm
It was
saying
just
is,
the wrong-
I just want to make sure
they
that the
just had the wrong
proper
address.
plan with the proper address is
Yeah.
what gets into the file.
Yeah, we're working on the calendar.
Yes.
Okay, yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Yes. On the part two,
Yes,
will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? No or
No.
small impact?
no,
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land?
yeah, very little.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No,
No,
Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area?
no,
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
no,
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
no,
Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies or public or private wastewater treatment?
no,
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
no,
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna?
no,
Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
no.
can I
Yes.
ask a question on that? Doug, is there any wetlands that are on this property that will affect the driveway or the building or?
Yeah, there are. You look at one. The current layout shows the driveway. I think that's my comment.
Did they provide a survey with that?
Are we on Palmer Road still?
Yes.
Okay.
The structure itself is not in the wetlands, though, is it?
No, the structure itself is not. But the
Okay.
roadway infringes on the wetlands. And I don't think it really, it's just gotta be pulled out, right? So that line should be forced. There's no enough space to turn around.
Yeah.
Gravel area ratio.
So that proposed turnaround should be modified to keep it out of the wetlands.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. So I don't know what the answer to that question is, given.
Well, is it no or small impact?
Small. It's probably small impact.
Yeah, it would be small impact. It's not no impact.
Okay. But that should be something we consider in the site plan.
Okay,
I mean, basically, what we should ask for. I think to move forward with this, we should just have it drawn, modified.
Okay.
Pull that out of the way.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of space between that.
Yeah.
Will the proposed action create result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No,
no,
Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
no,
Every question has been answered, moderate, no to small impact, so a negative declaration can be entertained.
I'll make a motion for negative deck.
motion made by Richard, second by Arnie, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Negative declaration relative to seeker. I would now entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make that.
Ann and Judy, all in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is hereby open for anybody who wants to make any comments regarding 6985 Colomer Road, East Syracuse. Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Come right to the podium and identify who you are.
I am, my name is Mike Decker. I am Patricia Decker's brother-in-law. My deceased brother Harold, his wife owns the property. And she asked me to appear on her behalf because she's not good at this type of thing. So
You want what property? This property?
the property next to. right
Next door.
Yeah, it's right there. The butts, the east boundary line.
The house right next
House
to
is
it.
there, the small one, 6995.
Is this the place with a lot of stuff?
No, that's for the,
That's further. Just checking. I
Yeah,
didn't want-
That's two houses.
That's the Warner property.
yeah, right.
I didn't want to let you out of the rest.
Oh, thanks, thanks. So anyway, several things are. One is the 6995, my brother and sister-in-law property. It was back when Glenn Bach owned the property, there was a lot of fill going in. They filled that site immensely. Okay, and it was put my brother's property and the property next door to that has created a big pond, if you will. There's standing water there 12 months of the year. And so
Where's the water?
in the backyards,
In your backyard or
Yes.
their backyard?
both,
Both.
yeah, my sister-in-law's property and the house right next door, that's all low back there.
Is it in the weeds or is it on the?
It's in the weeds, yeah.
No, this
And-
happened. This
And it used to
happened.
be, it used to be yard. When the Plumptons owned it originally, that my brother bought it from, that was their rear yard. That property is 225 feet deep. And it's always so wet back there that it can't be mowed, so it's always tall standing grass. And you can only mow about, probably about 40 feet, 50 feet of the backyard. And that's where the septic system is. So, so she has to have the system pumped, a lot more regular than most people. So that fill is approximately 4 feet higher than her yard is, the depth of the level of her yard. So it creates and it's all gravel that they put in there. So the water just runs off the top of it. And there aren't any really defined swales back there to carry the water off farther out to the wetlands. So there, could use some swaling and things like that to carry it out to the wetlands. Because now it's coming towards the houses instead of going out back, because the way they filled it in, they kind of blocked it off from making it, for having any water make it to the wetlands. So it's kind of like, it's trapping the water in those two backyards.
How big are the wetlands back there? I saw the wetlands, but I didn't know how big they were.
They go quite a distance. They go quite a distance back there. So when I was a kid, we used to hunt back in there. And you needed knee boots to go through it. So, yeah.
How many years ago did the fill come in?
I would say when Glenn was there, probably 20 to 30 in that range, Rich. So it's been approximately.
And he's the fellow that ran the VW repair
Yes,
shop.
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
VW
yeah.
repair
So
shop.
he's been gone,
At least
I'd
20
say
years.
longer than 30.
Yeah, between 20 and 30. He's been gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but anyway, so the.
Is there a way of resolving your concern about the water that's pooling?
Well, we need to have an engineer look at it and just figure out where they can put a swale in that would run north towards the wetland. Because right now, the water's coming south towards the houses. And I'm afraid with this, besides the pole barn and the runoff, I assume it's gonna be a steel roof? Yes, sir. Yeah, a steel roof, the water is gonna come flying off of that. And there's nowhere for it to go really other than south towards the two houses. So, and is there gonna be any outside storage? No. What cold storage building is over there? Cold storage for, He's getting his t-shirts that he has. okay,
Then he also, all he does, he has sort of like a lot of his rails for how to pull back and stuff. And it's all, it's cold back, other than that.
so it's not gonna be heated?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
It's gonna be used in the winter time with plow back there?
I would say for accessibility and fire reasons, yes.
Yeah.
But there's no mechanical stuff going back there at all. I believe the only electricity that's going back there is for light power. So it's a true full storage. It's like, there's nothing on our plans, we have, we get it more, I visited. So, I'll leave it.
I can feel it. I've lost mine a lot of times.
Is it possible that, one of the things I know that eliminates that, the drainage, doing that is having the gutter system
Correct.
that goes away from the building?
Correct.
Is that something that you would be looking to do?
We'd be more than happy to buy. I know Joe's also very much representing Joe. Joe is also very much providing whatever you do. And I think there is a drain in the back on that more toward the building, toward this area. Mike, I know this is right in here. Drain in this area here. Where it will.
Yeah, I hear
Right.
Right now, yeah.
I don't know about that. No, but I'm just saying, yeah, that's the other thing.
Right.
Gentlemen,
Yes, sir.
I see we're having a good lively discussion. Unfortunately, the members of the board have no idea what's going on.
All right.
Mr. Decker, could you tell us what this discussion is about and whether you're hearing what you want to hear relative to?
Well, the main thing is that, one is that we want to get the water away from her backyard because it's creating problems. Okay, there's standing water there quite a bit at the time. And it's being caused by that property being overfilled. And it's driving the water, trapping the water in her backyard and the neighbor's backyard. So we need to do something to see if a swale can be done. And, you know, do we have topos out to know what the grade is, which way the grade goes? So if they could pitch it with a swale, a limited grade swale.
Is the developer willing to do something like that?
I've got to basically, I mean, we have the ability to do stuff like that. My biggest thing is to be able to talk to Joe about that. Because everybody works with a budget nowadays, obviously. Yeah. And it's like, this tree, take that project and try it. Because the simple reasons, it's like, if, please forgive me, I'm not trying to be rude on this, but everybody can address this as well. If that property flood over the amount of time, this small square footage of buildings that we put up, this is only 3.50. Right. It's like, there's other village properties, obviously, it's gotta be pushed water into your backyards. It's been a problem for a while.
No, because the other ones, all the residential structures to the east are all on the same level as her backyard. And I mean, I played there when I was a kid, because one of my good friends lived in one of those houses. And my dad owned the meat market right next door. There used to be a meat market next door. And so my dad owned that, and I used to play there all the time. And there was never any water problems in those backyards. So we used to play football and baseball in those backyards.
Okay, I'm hearing more discussion than I want to hear.
Okay.
And my concern is you got a pre-existing problem that's existed for 25 to 30 years. And it's really not our duty to solve a pre-existing problem. My concern, Doug, would be, is this project going to create or augment the existing problem? Is it going to increase the problem that he has?
Can I ask him a quick question too, while you're thinking about that? It's standing water. Has it ever gone into the basement? Or has it always just been standing water in the yard?
Well, it affects what, it affects the septic system. It's not the basement.
But it doesn't go into the.
It's the septic.
Because
system
our
is
concern
backyard.
usually, and for town infrastructure is, if it's something the town causes, then that's a concern. You know, and if it's standing water, which in the town of Manlius, there's a lot of that here, that constantly moves north from south, which is, but this is just backing up a little bit from the north to yours. Yeah. Or your, probably. So my only thought process there is that if there's a way that we can alter any more water being absorb in the property, standing water, that would be something that I would be concerned.
I think Joe hit the nail on the head.
But you're right, 25 years ago, it should have probably.
I think the real question goes to our town engineer as to whether this project will increase the situation that Mr. Decker is telling us about.
Stormwater rate required, we were actually over a year of land to develop a SWIP and accommodate for any changes. What you got here is 1,500 square feet, which is typically less than an acre. Sure, it's not that the applicant would put gutters on, different gutters a different way. There's no increase in asphalt, there's no increase in impervious area other than that blue area.
Okay.
So I think, we'll have that compromise. I think we're pretty happy to say that he's going to put gutters on and convert them towards the back of the product.
Does the plan call for any asphalt?
No.
It's just all going to be stone?
Yes.
Okay.
Nothing changed other.
Right now, the ridge line is running east and west. You just turn it so that you can get the water to the back. 'Cause right now, the south roof slope is coming towards that house, so. we got-
If you did put the gutter system on, is once the gutter system was in, we would divert it back.
Could you get it to the back?
Absolutely. You divert a lot. Can we stop it?
You can't stop. water. You can only direct.
Mr. Decker, you need to talk more to us. Do you have any further complaints about this project or any further thoughts?
Just the placement of it, because right now, it's right directly behind her house, and that's what she's gonna, right now, she looks at fields. But that, when it gets placed where the proposed location is, it's gonna be right out her back windows.
There's not trees that block that. Fence.
And it's within the proper setbacks.
Yeah, it's in the proper setbacks, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, it is.
Yep, no doubt about that. She was just wondering if hopefully it could just move behind the existing building so that you don't see it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Decker, for your thoughts.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who wanted to speak about this project?
Nobody online.
Nobody online.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing by Richard, second by Arnie, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is hereby closed. This is really on just for site plan approval. So I think we should have a discussion about what we've just heard and decide to what extent that impacts our decision and what we want to do about it.
I think the gutter proposal, whoever made it, is a good idea to divert and to make sure that we divert the water away from where the problem exists on the neighbor's property. I don't know if it's northeast, south, or west, whatever, wherever it's got to go. I think that should be a condition of the site plan.
I
Is it-
agree with that.
That makes perfect sense. Is the developer willing to do that?
I am absolutely. I'd like to talk to people I've built it for. I can speak for Joe. I'm sure we won't have a problem doing that because gutters are very, should we say, very helpful, because they're very minimal on the job.
Okay. Now, your disturbance of the land is going to be greater than the footage of the building. And to that extent, are you able to, would you be willing to divert the water in such a way that it goes away from the house on the east?
Is it solving the problem that he has or
No.
helping? How-
Making sure you're not increasing the
Correct,
problem.
yes. I mean, by putting gutters in drainage areas to the back of the property where our wetlands are proposed, maybe adding warm water to the wetland area.
And it may be more than just gutters. It may be some type of a diversion to get it away. Right, right,
Trying to suggest there, yes.
right, right.
Although I don't know that we would ever want to mandate it, would you be able to speak to the owner relative to the possibility of planting some trees to provide a barrier for the adjoining neighbor?
Yeah, as in I would want to know criteria though, on height wise, on plans. Would be something to be able to plan with a few people, or we have to bring equipment to do that. Because sometimes to divert emission, you have to have something of significant size. Require plans.
It's 40, what's the length of it again?
What's your thoughts on that? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking in terms of just to put some visual barrier.
And you wouldn't need, because it's only a small portion of the building that's going to be seen.
Right, I'm exactly.
Their property, so you really only had a small area. You don't have to cover the whole 50 feet with trees. It doesn't look
Is
like-
there any way we could look on the map? And I'm sorry, I came in late, I apologize. So I don't know what property we were talking about.
This is the Colomer Road project,
No, I know, I don't know which property Mr. Decker was
It's on the
speaking
east,
about.
right next to it.
right on the east.
You're looking at-
As you're looking at the building, it's on the right hand side.
It's on the survey, it's plotted on the survey, you can see.
Oh. I see trees on the map.
Really small section here. This is it.
Yeah, that's one.
What's the peak of that? What's the peak of the building? 20 feet, 25?
No, it's below that. It's 16 feet to the top of the rim board and then 4 more feet. Yes, it would be at 20 feet, correct.
Okay.
That's the
This,
property.
this is this label. Back up there, that's not 69.95, this is 69.95.
Right, you gotta move the lines, the GIS is not right. Okay. So they're pushing it along.
You gotta move it to the left.
Yeah.
And where they buses, that's.
So there's.
See where the gravel, those cars are in the back.
So you can see the fill line right here. That's the fill line, that's about 4 feet, 4 or 5.
So I guess the question is,
See, I see those trees, they don't have leaves on them.
Right.
They're almost never dead.
Yeah, oh, are they?
Yeah, from the water, because of
Oh.
standing water, they actually, can't live.
so I guess the question for the owner would be, are you willing to put the gutters and maybe a swale or something to get the water away? Are you willing to plant some trees to help screen?
I would have to say Joe would be receiving to that one thing.
Yes.
Better.
There's a-
Secret water is on this property here. Okay, the fence, I understand all the still, but
There's a fence there.
yeah, that's where standing water is. If you look back here, where that trailer is covered, right there, you walk a little bit more with the hand. That's right there.
Yeah.
That's approximately probably about 3 to 5 feet back this way more, maybe more to 7 feet is where the water back at it.
Yeah.
If you look at all that right there, it's all dry, so you hit wetlands, which are over there. I would warn you, if you put gutter system on that, to divert the water back that way.
Yeah.
So that would make sense to me, and then follow back up to maybe this fence line here, and put plantings on that, because if you stand at the back here, you're lower, your topo is
Yeah.
lower back in the backside of that, than it is up here by your residential house. So I'm sure there's a piece of thing that is done for everybody. Trees, so does that work? But I do know on the backside of this here, there is definitely a problem there, I can see that.
Yeah.
I know nothing about this problem, nothing. But I know on the backside of there, we looked at anything when we have rains, and we're seeing a solid.
Yeah, I don't know how you can even plant it.
That obviously starts with spots.
Should we get a plan?
But that definitely
Should we get a plantings plan and a
Thank you.
Water is trapped.
Thank you.
contingent on that?
Yeah, he's playing over there.
20?
You could like make it-
Yeah.
What's that?
It's 25 or 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay, folks. Any further discussion? I think we kind of need to meet an understanding between us. And that understanding would be that the gutters would be on in such a manner to divert towards the west or towards the north. And I think we'd all feel a little comfortable if we knew that the owner was willing to put up a couple of cedar trees, evervites or whatever.
Would letter suffice for that? Would a letter from the homeowner suffice for that property owner?
Yeah, I don't know what, we could make it part of the resolution. I mean, I don't want to delay you unduly,
Right.
but if we proceeded forward tonight, we would make it a condition of the site plan approval.
I know Joe would be on board with that as well.
You're okay with that? Okay. I think we're in a position to entertain a motion relative.
Did we come out of what? Yeah.
Oh.
We did. Yeah, we did.
We have to wait anyway. We have not heard from county planning. So I apologize. We'll put next available date,
June 13th.
June 13th, and we will have a decision for you, sir. We do have to hear from the county though.
Okay.
And I knew that. I have to be reminded.
Okay.
That might be a good time if you can just put in writing what you would propose and where it would be.
I think
And then we'll make it forward.
probably within the next 24 hours. Yeah, this will be sooner.
Great. That'll be great.
We'll take that little area out of the way.
Okay,
Yeah.
so go ahead and turn around this, bring it up.
Yeah.
Very good.
Looks good there.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Decker, and hopefully this will resolve some of your concerns.
Please move you as well. Okay, very good. Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is an application by Meltwater Solar LLC. This is on for a discussion and decision regarding site plan and special use permit. This is a solar project located at 6101 Kirkville Road North, Kirkville, New York, all on tax map number 071-02-09. So it's on today for a discussion and decision. What I'd like to do before proceeding forward with a secret determination and special use, I'd like to discuss a few of the public comments that have been made. And then I would invite the members of the board to give us their ideas and suggestions relative to public comments. We did hold a public hearing, and at that public hearing, 3 individuals spoke. 2 of them asked general questions, which the developer, Mr. Geddes, answered in detail, and they expressed no objections. A 3rd person also asked questions, and his questions were specific relative to his airfield. Detailed reports from the FAA were that later provided to him, showing that this project would have no impact on his airfield. The public hearing was then closed. Now, a few days later, we did receive a letter from Maybe Brothers, and this letter was an objection to the installation of a solar farm on this property. And the objection was based upon the fact that this land needed to be farmed and that it should be farmed. Unfortunately, this board has no authority to compel a landowner to use their property in a specific way. So there's nothing that we could do about Mr. Mayberry's concerns. We have now received a petition. It is some 50 days after the March 28th public hearing, and it is signed by 149 residents. And although this petition is untimely, I believe that we should address the 4 areas of concerns that were set forth in that petition. The people who signed the petition have brought up legitimate concerns, and they're looking for us to resolve them or to tell them that there's no fear of their concerns. But what they may not realize is that we've been handling solar farms for several years, and we have addressed many of these exact same concerns over the period of the last several years. They have a concern about glare. solar farms, and this particular solar farm is designed to absorb light and not to reflect it. Additionally, we've talked to the developer, and the developer is in fact adding a protective non-glare coating to all of the panels. Therefore, glare is not an issue that needs to be addressed further, in my humble opinion, but we want to hear from you guys too. Property values. We have seen and reviewed surveys and research reports up to date that tell us that solar farms have no adverse effect on property values. In the petition, they are looking for a guarantee that there's absolutely no effect. And unfortunately, I don't think anyone can guarantee that there's going to be no effect on property values. But based upon the existing data that we have received today, there should be little or no impact on property values. They've also expressed a very good concern about water contamination. It's a real fear and it's a concern of the environment. We have had past projects where this exact same concern was brought forth, and we've been provided with numerous reports regarding water contamination or the possibility of it. And based upon those reports, it's clear that there is no basis for concern about contamination. They've examined all types of substances and are concerned that there is going to be leakage from the solar panels that's going to go into the soil and then ultimately wind up in the water. And all the scientific research data to date indicates that the answer is no. The last of their four concerns set forth in their petition is saturation. This board will be discussing this evening. And if in fact we will need to make a determination whether or not the facts and circumstances of this particular project warrant the solar farm coming in here. I'd like to hear from other people. I'm not opening up or reopening the public hearing. We did that, we had that, but I think it's fair that we address the issues that they've raised, and they've raised those four main issues in that petition. I'd like to hear from the board on what they think.
I'll start, I guess, that I did get this today. Apparently it was emailed earlier. I have not had a chance to read it. I don't know what it says. I think they're addressing some of the concerns that you just highlighted. But I'd like to read it. The other, this is a general concern about solar and about discussions we've had and about input we've gotten from others. I keep hearing we are at the end of the road, that the grid cannot accept any more generated electricity. But I keep hearing this, and we keep getting more projects, and I keep hearing this. When is the end of the road coming? And
I think we're there.
well, do we have a letter? Do we have proof? Do we have anything that tells me that we are at the end of the road? Because I've heard this for quite a while, and I'm concerned. I do not want to see solar projects all over the town of Manlius. I think we as a community have done our share in trying to provide solar generation. We've approved, I think, 5 or 6 projects. This might be 7. The town dump might be 8. I don't know. When are we going to get to the end of the road? And that's a concern of mine. And it gets me to focus more on the 1 mile concern that was raised in these petitions. So
Right.
those are my thoughts.
I think in the letter that we haven't read yet,
Right.
it does, I wanted to ask the applicant, because you did mention that this is the last project in the queue. And do you have that is that from National Grid or?
Correct. The National Grid queue is a public resource. You can go to it and last project.
Does that include the dump project? Is that in or out of the queue?
There are no other projects behind this one in the queue. That
Which
was
gets me
very-
back to my concern is I don't have an answer. I mean, I hear what you're saying and I appreciate it, but I don't have a definitive answer that if we approve this project, that's it, it's done, it's over for the town of Manlius.
one, two, I think it's important to note that this circuit in particular is full after this project. There will be no other projects in this area. It's
What's the area?
the Kirkville area around this circuit.
Okay, so that doesn't answer the town of Manlius question.
Well, then,
Is it the
speaking
Dugan
of the
Road?
greater Manlius area, there are no projects up by this queue. So we would.
Which doesn't tell me that there couldn't be in the future.
Well, there may not be way into the future if they upgrade the grid. That would be a whole other.
But Rich brings up a
Discussion.
good question too, Victor, because the solar project on the landfill, I don't know how far that is, if that's considered in the queue or not.
Well, they'd have to submit a formal application with National Grid and start coordinating.
I think
And
they
can't
finally did that.
I think they did that prior to coming in
Yeah.
front of the planning
Okay, so
board.
they-
So
Yeah.
that should be in the queue
I'm pretty
before these
sure.
guys got into the queue.
So my other concern, which we've all been discussing, is that the 1 mile within another solar project. And I remember when, Rich, you were on the board in 2016, we put all that together. Still not quite sure what you said it on a mile, you know, but I don't know if it had to do with, we didn't want solar projects one right next to the other.
That was it. That was exactly.
But I don't think it had anything to do with effectiveness of the solar itself.
No, we just didn't want to have to drive down a road and see project after project after project. We wanted to still have some natural beauty in the town of Manlius. And, you know, I think we all agree that renewable energy is important. But I think as with everything else, it's got to be responsible and it's got to be somewhat limited. I mean, you don't want a gas station every 5 feet. I don't want a solar project every 5 feet. You know,
But they do have gas stations there.
no, well, I mean, they have gas stations around, but yes, but it's,
I guess what I'm trying to picture, because I know where the one is on Green Lakes Road. It's back of.
You wouldn't know it's there if you didn't know it was there.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know.
From
I'll see
your
when I drive by.
location.
It is hidden very
Yeah.
well.
yeah, it is. We did
And
a good
that's
job.
a concern, you know, and is this going to be, this seems to be pretty well hidden, I mean.
I think it is.
Yeah.
The setbacks are, they've worked with us to get the setbacks away from some houses. I don't disagree with that.
Including vegetative screening that's enhanced, so, you know, meets all should go.
Right. And I give you
Preserve the historic character of the community.
I give you credit for that. I do. I mean, you did a good job. You've worked with us. You've made modifications that we've asked for, so I appreciate that.
Am I right in thinking that the code doesn't prohibit absolutely solar farms within a mile? It just says the board has to make a finding in order to allow that. They have to look at the individual landscape and impact on the community. And then if they find that it's sufficiently set back and sufficiently screened, then the board can make a finding which would allow it to go forward.
That's exactly correct.
That's it. Yeah.
And therefore, we would have to make such a finding before we could consider going forward.
And this is where the problem comes with saturation. About a year and a half ago, we asked the town board to declare a moratorium, to give us some time, to give them some time to come up with a comprehensive town plan, so that a developer could come to the town of Manlius and know exactly where a solar farm would be an appropriate place to be. We still don't have that. And I don't know if we're ever going to get it. But the thing that is tough for us as a planning board is without that guidance from the town board as to where are the right places to put them, we're relying on the developer to come up and say, show me why we can't do this. It's a little problem of cart and horse. And it's one of the challenges, it's one of the reasons why we asked the town board for that moratorium. They decided that it was more important to go ahead with more solar sooner rather than later. This is the consequence of that problem. We are dealing with this on a totally ad hoc basis. You come up with a plan, basically we have to find out if there's anything wrong with it that we can say no to. And if we can't, you're probably going to get approval. Because we can't just arbitrarily say there's too many solar farms in Manlius. That's not our purview. Our purview is to go through the detail of the plan that you're submitting and see if it conforms to the town code and to see that the people who are gonna have to live with it for the next 35 or 40 years can live with it. That's our job. As far as glare goes, I'm a retired pilot. I know a lot about glare. It's the last thing in the world a pilot needs to see, especially coming into land. It's not a problem. It is absolutely not a problem. The solar people figured this one out a long time ago. The other thing, as far as leaching, there's nothing in those panels to leach. They're solid. Could you break one? Sure, you could break one. You have a hailstorm, and maybe smash a whole bunch of them, but that's not going to cause terrible chemicals to leach into the ground and into groundwater. The last thing, in terms of objection, was property values. I know a little bit about property values. Property values or assessments are determined by sales. The sale of a property helps to determine the allotment, the assessment. Sales first, assessments follow, not the other way around. There is no direct link between solar farms and assessments. And the reason is very simple. If somebody wants to buy a house or build a house near a solar farm, they're going to make that market decision on their own. Whatever the house is assessed for, if it's a new house, it's going to be whatever they pay for. It's very simple. But you can't worry about, you can't say solar farms are going to lower the value of our homes. They're not. There are a lot of people who want to live in a town which does have solar farms because they're saving the planet for their grandchildren. And the last thing I would like to address, which you did not complain about, but I've heard about it, and that is that even though every one of the landowners, property owners in the vicinity of the proposed project was notified of a public hearing, there isn't enough in the notice to give you both the time and the background to properly prepare a response. I would submit that to us as something we should be doing better. I'm not complaining to the developer or the townspeople. I think the planning board could modify the way it holds a public hearing in terms of the announcement, in terms of the timing of it and the meat of it. To say there's a public hearing about a project kind of gives you a very, very vague outline. Should I care? And then when you find out after the fact, untimely, that 160 people were unhappy about it, I think part of it is because they weren't given sufficient notice. Not a criticism of
Yeah, and I
us.
think you're right. I think that they're going by what they're regulated to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's up to us to expand that.
But it's a minimum, right?
Yeah, right.
It's a minimum.
But this board gives notifications to every landowner within 1,000 feet.
Right.
So we did our job as far as notifying them.
We did.
And are
Legally.
you concerned that you don't think we're given adequate time?
I don't think we're giving them adequate time in terms of the time they receive it to the time of the public hearing. And I think that we should be able to tell them a lot more in the notice about what the public hearing is about and what their participation might be. I'm just trying to help educate the people so they don't find out after the fact, I didn't know you were going to put a 40-acre solar farm in my backyard. Wow. So I think that's, I don't want to speak for you, that's your job. But that's something I've sensed, I've picked this up, and it's not just with this project, it's just in general. I think we could try to do a better job.
We can talk about that. I'll talk to council about that as well. And, maybe we can change the type of notices.
You know, I'll say one more thing on property values. I think that we have done, this board has done a very good job in looking at these projects. Everyone that we've approved has been a piece of fairly level ground. We have made sure that either there was natural screening or there was screening that was increased to make sure that it wasn't visible. And I think in those cases, I would agree that it has minimal impact on property values. If you can't screen a project, that's when I disagree. I think that has major impacts on property values. And this is not one of those projects that can't be screened or isn't screened or adequately screened. The setbacks are good. So it's not this project, but I think that a general statement that solar projects have no impact on property values is not correct, in my opinion, because it could be done improperly, which does cause an impact on property values.
I was speaking of the town.
I concur with you 100% on
I
that.
do too.
And that probably got me in trouble with the town board when I spoke against the town board because of the inadequate screening.
And it could also affect it negatively or positively.
I can't ever imagine it being positive,
It
ever.
could definitely.
Pardon?
It could definitely be positive depending on the home buyer.
Yeah, one of the possibilities, if you think about it, like having a lake, nobody can build on it for 40 years.
Yeah.
That's nice. I gotta worry
Some
about.
people
Not to
like
worry
the
about what
looks
it
of
is.
it, believe it or not.
Yeah. But I agree with all the other points as far as saturation. I drove back and forth from the Green Lake site to this site, back and forth, back and forth, just trying to get an idea, without having, being able to get out the properties. And I think I mentioned it before, I feel like you wouldn't know if you're on one property and the other, that there's a solar farm on the other property. But, and I feel this one has proper screening, so I think if we're thinking as a board, saturation altogether, and the town, and solar, and future, and with, the anticipation of the comprehensive plan, just like the zoning question, kind of what do we see as the board? If this is the last project in the queue, but if this one is not approved, there will be another project in the queue. And if there's a little space in the grid, whatever, where else, would we want the solar when it comes up? So is this a site that's better than what could come up? And so anyway, I just want to think about that as far as, because I don't feel that saturation is an issue with this project and the other project because of where they are. In fact, I live kind of close to the Green Lakes one myself. And until I was driving back and forth, I was thinking that it was even, that it was closer. Forget how far a mile is away from other things when you're,
Yeah,
when
but
you're
you don't
there.
look
So
at them. Where you live, you don't see them. You don't have to drive.
I drive by them pretty much every day, the Green Lakes one.
The Green Lake.
Mhm.
And many people that sign the petition actually don't live near them either, but
Yeah.
that's beside.
No, I drive by the Green Lakes when I drive by the Townsend one every day. One's at the high school, one's at Green Lakes.
When you
So,
leave,
yeah.
I'm curious because I've noticed this, and maybe now you can't see it because the leaves are on the trees. But on Route 5, as you're getting into Mycena, before you turn on 290,
Mhm.
I see something on the hill, and I'm like, holy cow, I think that's the solar project.
It is.
I think you can see that
Yeah,
from
you can.
Route 5, yeah.
But you have to sort of look for it.
Yeah. You can look
I
for it,
looked
yeah.
up there,
And
I
it's
said, well,
obviously different winter and summer.
Right. I guess the reason I'm so focused on how many more projects are coming, if they are, what can be handled by the grid, so on and so forth, is because I want to, in my mind, I want to know if I can comfortably say, even though this is within a mile, but it's one of the last projects that we're going to approve, it's well screened. Okay, and when you said, where else do we want other projects if we turn this one down? That's not our job. I mean, if a
No,
town
I don't
board
mean
would
like to
like
pick it out. I'm just saying if we say no to this one and we get it, that, like there's other, again, thinking that this one's, pretty well screened, even from
and
just
it's a
driving
flat
by.
piece, it's a flat piece of ground.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking, keeping in mind looking at the future, we denied the one on Salt Springs,
Salt Springs.
and that was wide open
Yeah.
space,
Well, I think what Arnie said earlier, that is that the town board is putting together a comprehensive plan, which if we had the moratorium, then that could give us some guidance on where these things should go. If we approve this one and that's the final one, I guess that answers the question of where these projects are going. It's done and over with. I guess even though I think this developer appears to be a very good developer, qualified developer, they've worked with us to do some things that we've asked them to do. I'm stuck with this. How many more are coming, and is the mile distance a concern?
Joe, did you speak with someone from National Grid?
No, I didn't. However, I am going to put Mr. Geddes on the spot. Mr. Geddes, in your report that you did up for Cyprus, you indicated, and keeping in mind that we have already approved over 29 megawatts of solar farms. You put in that report that there are roughly only 2 megawatts of capacity left. I'm wondering where you got that information from.
So in addition to National Grid's interconnection queue being a public resource, so is their hosting capacity. So if you look at the hosting capacity map, you can, better understand what is essentially one of the largest obstacles to solar development, which is the ability to interconnect into the grid. Because a town can say this is where we want solar, but there are many obstacles to development, whether that's presence of wetlands, floodlands, or floodplains, steep slopes, a willing landowner, physical capability of the electrical infrastructure in that given spot, both technically and financially. And this is one of the resources that National Grid updates on a regular basis to allow and assist developers in figuring out where they can site projects. So then you can better understand where you can site projects. And then you work with National Grid and go through all the requisite studies to understand, okay, this is exactly how much I can put there, and this is how much it's going to cost.
But that's the problem I have, is you said what you can put there. Where is there? And you've said Kirkville, and I'm asking, what's the town of Manlius? And I still don't understand. Maybe Kirkville only has 2 megawatts left. What's the town of Manlius have left?
Well, in an earlier meeting, it was yourself, Richard, and I think that actually brought up that there's 2 megawatts left in town. And the town of Manlius's own commercial solar study group final report from October itself also says that, quote, it is likely that current applicants, if approved and developed, will use up almost all of the capacity National Grid has in the town of Manlius. There may be room for one more small project, essentially the landfill project.
Who wrote that?
This is the town of Manlius Commercial Solar Study Final Group, which was
that?
Members of the town board, planning board, the town attorney, and contributing experts from NYSERDA, National Grid, the Public Service Commission, and many others.
What's the date on that?
October 20, 2021.
That answers your question, Richard.
This was, my understanding was done in the lead up to the solar moratorium. But even though the moratorium did not go through, the group continued their study work and published it in October, which may be why it kind of fell under the radar, because it was originally done kind of in conjunction with Works Markets.
Okay, we've had a lot of discussion. I think we need to move forward and make a determination. And in order to do that, we need to go forward with secret. So if council would lead us through secret.
Remember, this is a type 1 action, so we are using the long form EAF. So first question, impact on land. Proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. Yes or no? Answer.
Yes.
Yes.
Now we'll answer the subsequent questions. The proposed action may involve construction on land where depth to water table is less than 3 feet. And that's no. The proposed action may involve construction on slopes 15% or greater.
No.
The proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of its existing ground surface.
No.
The proposed action may involve the excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material.
No.
The proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or in multiple stages.
No.
The proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal.
No.
The proposed action is or may be located within a coastal erosion hazard area.
No.
I wish.
The next question, impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site, such as cliffs, dunes, minerals, fossils, caves.
No.
Question 3, impact on water surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies such as streams, rivers, ponds, or lakes.
No.
There are wetlands on this project, correct? Doug, aren't there wetlands on this project?
I believe they are properly delineated.
So the answer is it may affect one or more wetlands.
It may.
Yes,
No.
it will not. Okay.
This is only 37 acres out of the 100.
Okay.
Impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer.
No.
And did you want to expound on that? I think you did before about the leaching. There's no concern about that.
Well, it's a general thing about all solar. There's nothing. So.
It's usually like, sometimes it's with the manufacturing of the panels, depending on how they're manufactured, but once they're finished. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's where that concern comes from. Usually.
If I could interrupt for a minute, because it just dawned on me, I got a question that I wanted to ask. I've read several articles that have said the federal government is investigating the manufacturing, the source, I guess I should say, of these panels. And they have put a hold or stoppage on panels going forward until their investigation is completed, which will probably stop a great number of projects from being started. Is this going to impact your project?
We are not to the procurement stage of this project. That's not something we would look at until after receiving all the requests.
So if the federal, am I correct in saying the federal government's put a stoppage on allowing developers to procure
No, they're
panels?
not, but they have threatened additional tariffs.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just,
Thank you.
that came to mind.
Next question, number 5, impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development on lands subject to flooding.
No.
No.
Next question, impacts on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source.
No.
No.
Impact on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna.
No.
No.
The exact opposite. They're going to be planting.
Number 8, impact on agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources.
Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
And that there will not be farming.
Not farming.
Okay. The proposed action may sever, cross, or otherwise limit access to agricultural land. No or small impact.
Yes.
The proposed action may result in the excavation or compaction of the soil profile of active agricultural land.
No.
The proposed action may irreversibly convert agricultural land to non-agricultural uses,
No.
either more than 2.5 acres if located in the ag district or more than 10 acres if not within an ag district.
What was
No.
the, you said that awful quick. I didn't-
Irreversibly.
Irreversibly.
Irreversibly,
That's
no.
that's why I said
Okay,
no.
okay.
The proposed action may disrupt or prevent installation of an agricultural land management system. The proposed.
No.
No.
Is, okay.
We're having trouble hearing you back here. We don't.
Really? I'll go louder. I don't think we do. I'll talk louder. The proposed action may result directly or indirectly in increased development potential or pressure on farmland.
I'd like to know what that is.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Well.
There's a
So-
tendency to think that if some farmer sells his land, gets a lot of money for it, a lot more than he's making as a farmer, that it may be tempting for everybody else as a farmer to do the same thing. To take all the farmland out of production and turn it into some kind of a development. It's kind of a reach to say that if one person has a solar farm, that everybody else is gonna want them. I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think that's a concern at all.
No. It's not possible.
I agree.
Next question. The proposed project is not consistent with an adopted municipal farmland protection plan. There is not one here.
No.
No,
Okay, next, impact on aesthetic resources. The land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource.
No.
I don't think so.
Impact on historic and archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource.
No.
There are none, no.
That's true.
I-
The Erie Canal is right there. It's-
Adjacent.
Barbara Richardson's house, isn't there?
You can't really see it from here.
Yeah.
The applicant addressed all SHPO
Mhm.
concerns, state historical preservation.
Okay, we can put that in, that all the SHPO has been addressed. Impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. There is no.
This is, no, it's not part of the open space there.
Impact on critical environmental areas. The proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area. This is not, is that correct? Not a critical environmental
No, it's
area
not.
for our engineer.
No.
Impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems.
No.
Impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy.
No, the opposite.
Impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting.
No,
Impact on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants.
no,
Consist-
I'd like to address that. If I may I speak?
no, not at this time.
May I speak at the end before you make your decision? Please,
I don't want to open this up to a public
I
forum.
understand.
If you can be concise about what you're telling us. Proceed.
There are 5 or 6 houses on Kirkville Road North between the Erie Canal and Green Lakes Road. And we're all on a well system. So if there is any possibility that either during construction, there's some sort of diesel spill, oil spill, anything like that, that can introduce contaminants into our groundwater and contaminate our wells, we have no public water access, none.
And we were aware of that. We read that in
I
the
understand.
letter from you folks.
I'm just trying to be concise without being, out in left field there, but that's my main concern.
Okay, and there's nothing about this operation that would have that type of an impact.
Will they not
Unless-
be
unless you-
using cement to put posts into the ground? They'll need a wash basin for that?
No, no,
How are the posts gonna be in the ground?
They're pile driven. Cement would make it basically impossible to take them out upon decommissioning. And we want to take them all out because, to another point, almost all of the facility is largely recyclable and has a very high salvage value at its end of life. So we want to be able to take everything.
I think that also speaks to the chairman's prior point about how this is not an irreversible change in existing agriculture.
no, we're fully aware of that. And that's why we have a decommissioning plan that's going to be in effect and then we're going to be enforcing that together with 24.
We're at number 17, which is consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. That was framed in the negative. So is it consistent with adopted land use plans? I do not believe there is. other than our code.
There is no other organized plan at this point, so the answer is yes, it's consistent.
So the answer is the proposed action is not consistent. Okay, that is correct. It is consistent. All right. Consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character.
It won't be farmland anymore.
I think the answer is no, it's not inconsistent, I don't think.
If we were to say it was consistent, that would mean we'd never be able to develop. And the answer is no.
Okay.
No, I
Mr.
say
Chairman,
no.
It's just like
May-
that.
Mr. Chair, may I be heard on it? Is it possible the answer could be no, but the impacts have been mitigated, and we submitted a part 3 of the EAF to speak to this question. So that it,
I think you misunderstand our answer.
okay, there's a lot of negatives in there, sorry.
Yeah.
Question again, please.
The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character. So is the solar inconsistent with existing community character? If it's a possible maybe, then we can go through the other.
I would say no, it's not
I would say
inconsistent.
no.
I say no
It's
as well.
part of
No.
The farmland and.
It's not
No.
inconsistent.
It is
That's
not
correct.
Not
inconsistent.
Okay,
inconsistent.
yeah,
Double negative.
that's a lot of
Yeah,
negatives.
a lot of it.
And so we've completed that and there is a proposed resolution.
Can I ask one question? I think it was question number 3. Could you just go back to that one? And I think it was about the water table.
3 feet.
And I think we ought to ask Doug the answer to that. From
I'm just, I can't remember exactly.
So the question is, the proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies.
No, that wasn't it.
the 3-foot one.
3-foot water table.
It was, yeah, the 3 foot.
Before that.
Yeah, I think it might have been 1 or 2 before that. It was about 3 foot water table, something to that effect.
Less than 3 feet water table.
All right. The proposed action, this is on number 1, may involve, and we did go through each of these. The proposed action may involve construction on land where depth to water table is less than 3 feet.
I don't have
And the
enough.
answer is no or small impact. So Doug, do you know?
Are we right on that,
concerned
Doug?
about that? You want me to say it again?
Sure, I don't know that the water table has been depicted to us.
The proposed action may involve construction on land where depth to water table is less than 3 feet.
I hate to be a pain, but I just don't have the knowledge to be able to answer that.
Do you have a response to that?
Yes, that's included in the EAF part 1. And as with most of the other soil facts, it comes from the USDA soil survey. So I'm just looking at the part 1 right now. So the average depth of the water table on the project site is 1.5 feet. So no or small impact.
1.5 feet. So could you?
Can you
I'm
repeat
sorry
your
to do this.
question again?
Yeah, I'm getting confused.
We need to know if the depth to water table is less than 3 feet.
Sounds
Is
like
it
it
less
is.
than-
Yes, it is. It is.
Since no buildings are constructed, on the site, there's little to no risk or probability of water and flooding.
That's not the question.
There's no waste generated either.
First part of here's the whole question, but I was breaking it down. The proposed action may involve construction, yes,
Yes,
on land,
yes.
yes, where the depth to water table is less than 3 feet.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, so there's no or small impact is the answer.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we were getting confused because we were saying yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
yes,
thought we
Yeah,
said
no
no to the
answer.
question before, but if we, okay,
well, it's no or small impact
Got it.
Okay.
is how the question is answered.
okay.
Okay.
I think you're right about it. I just wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Just clarification.
Let me pull up the. Okay, so resolution for the seeker declaration as follows. And I'm going to ask everyone, did you receive this in advance of the meeting?
Yes.
Planning board
Yes.
members, and you had the opportunity to comment on that.
Yes.
So, thank you. Whereas this board declared itself lead agency for seeker and declared this project type 1 under seeker on March 14, 2022. And whereas a notice of intent to act as lead agency was prepared, wherein said lead agency notice properly noted in number 1 thereof, the lead agency is proposed to be the planning board of the town of Manlius. And whereas said notice of intent was sent to involved and interested agencies dated March 18, 2022, and no agency has objected to same. And whereas this board has reviewed the long form EAF of applicant, and whereas this board has taken a hard look at all environmental matters relating to this project, and whereas this board has answered each question in the part 2 long form EAF for this project as no or small impact, now therefore this board determines that this project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared, and therefore a negative declaration is issued for the project.
Do we need to discuss? All right, we'll entertain a motion. This is a motion for a negative
adopt-
For
declaration.
a negative,
adopt
to adopt
this.
the resolution for a negative declaration of secret.
I'll second that.
Motion by Valerie, second by Richard, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That is seeker. You need to go through the agenda of the special use permit.
We do. There is a resolution that was prepared in advance, and did each planning board member have the opportunity to review and comment on it?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there anything after discussion today that in this resolution that would need to be modified specifically? Or we'll read it and wait and see.
I am struggling with saturation.
Okay.
We have to cover that. And we,
Well, it's written.
is that in the?
It is,
this part?
it's here. Yeah, okay. Well, let me
Well,
start.
Then we ought to discuss saturation. And can you bring that up on your, where you get
Yes.
the itemized?
Yes. yeah. So, this part of the resolution is, whereas in order to make determinations on site plan, special use permit, and this is not subdivision, this board must, as a threshold matter, make a determination as to whether the concerning the saturation of the solar arrays pursuant to solar farm law, section 155-27-2D3B 19, which states saturation. In considering whether to issue a special use permit, the planning board shall consider the proximity of similar large solar energy systems to the one being proposed. In no event shall an LSES be placed within 1 mile of an existing LSES without specific findings by the planning board, such that placement does not adversely affect the community character of the surrounding properties. And the finding is, this project consists of one solar farm that is nominally less than 1 mile from Green Lake's solar facility. This board has carefully considered the saturation issue, and for the reasons and findings set forth below and in its secret determination, is of the opinion that the close proximity of the two solar farms to each other does not adversely affect the community character of the surrounding properties. The development of solar renewable energy in the town is a high priority and should be encouraged by the planning board and is based on the town's recent decision to forego a moratorium on solar farms, it being the strong policy of the town to encourage the development of renewable energy in the town under the right circumstances and the proper environmental review. The purpose of the saturation provision in the town code is to ensure as best as possible that solar farms do not dominate one neighborhood by being placed at intervals that are too close together and are viewed on both sides of residential developments. The project site is largely rural, does not appear to have an effect upon residential property from a visual impact standpoint. The project, with input from the planning board, is using setbacks greater than the code requires and is further maintaining a vegetation buffer around the westerly and southerly property boundaries. It is generally understood that the transfer station providing energy to these facilities is nearly at capacity, potentially limiting further, quote, saturation of solar projects in this general area. Based upon these findings, the community character of the neighborhood will not change by the project, and the goals of the town to encourage renewable energy development will be met by the project. And therefore, the relatively close proximity of the two solar farms to each other does not adversely affect the community character or the surrounding properties.
So I think we need to discuss, get our opinions out relative to the issue of saturation and the 1 mile. Judy, can we hear from you first? Because you're going to be leaving in 3 minutes.
I have nothing really to say.
Okay. Anyone else?
I have a problem with saturation. I have a problem being, it's within the 1 mile. And also, I think there's a problem because of the prime, you can't really tell anybody what to do with their land, but as the Onondaga County planning, but the installation of solar energy systems on large areas of active or prime farmland is discouraged. So I would vote no on that.
Okay.
Comment, and number 3, if I'm reading this correctly, where it says that solar farms do not dominate one neighborhood by being placed at intervals that are too close together and are viewed on both sides of residential developments. That is not, my belief is that was not part of the original law. And I'm not sure where that came from.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
That might be amended.
Wasn't that the legislative intent
Mhm.
when you passed the law, Richard?
No, not that they are too close together and are viewed on both sides of residential developments. I'm not really sure exactly what that means, but I'm gathering that a residential development looks this way and sees a solar farm, looks that way and sees a solar
Yes,
farm.
that's,
And that was not, basically, that was not in the law, that was not our intent, at least.
okay.
What was the, I wasn't there, and you were. So what was the intent of demarking 1 mile?
It wasn't so much the residential views of these things. It was driving down any road in Manlius and seeing solar farm after solar farm after solar farm. And I did not want to scorch the earth by having nothing but solar farms in town of Manlius. We wanted to have some type of separation. As I think back, maybe we should have made it 2 miles, 5 miles, 7 miles. I don't know. We chose the 1 mile. We thought it was reasonable at the time. And that's why we adopted that in that law. It wasn't so much that it would be viewed by one residential development looking in 2 different directions. That was never my intent of putting that in there. But it was more or less, I didn't want this beautiful town of Manlius to turn into one gigantic solar farm. That was really what we were trying to avoid. And at the time, to be honest, when we were doing this, this was early on, this was back in 2015 and 16. I think we passed it in 16, but we wrote it in 15, and we had very little knowledge on the capacity of the grid and other things. And the reason we put this together quickly is because when I left the planning board, we had a project in front of us and we had no code. There was nothing in our code that addressed solar projects. So we spent, John and I spent a year and a half or whatever it was, trying to pull together all the information we could. And, you know, if, whether that was right or wrong, I can't tell.
But we brought in experts. to
We
help.
did bring in some experts to help us and we talked to solar developers. We reached out to a lot of different people, but the 1 mile just seemed reasonable at the time.
Rich, how did, I just want to ask.
Sure.
How this differs for you in that, with that explanation?
Yep.
From the Do Good Road solar, the CDE?
Because those are closer. Is that what you're saying?
Well, because those were within a mile
Right,
from the
they were
Townsend or whatever we call it.
Yep.
Uh,
And I guess what I'm really struggling with, Valerie, whatever, is that I don't know when this is gonna stop. You know, I just don't know what the capacity is, and I keep getting different answers on what the capacity is that National Grid can absorb. And
Well, I think we have it. I feel like we have a good answer for that. What I was asking is, when we looked at CBE and Do Good Road.
Yep.
We were saying that it was screened.
Yep.
But this one I feel is screened.
this is well
sufficiently
screened.
As well.
That part of it, I don't have any complaints about. The developer has been very eager to work with us and they have made adjustments to the plan. I
Right.
appreciate that.
If you look at the property across the street from it, for example, that's wide open, no screening from the road whatsoever, whereas this is, so that's why I'm just,
Which project?
no, there is no project there. I'm saying
Oh,
like,
oh.
this one is screened similar to CDE where you couldn't, you know, you
Yep.
see it, you'll see it during construction, obviously, we've seen that.
Yep.
And I think the Green Lakes Road one looks a lot better now that it's fully completed.
If I
But
knew
I'm-
this was the last project that would ever be developed in the town of Manlius, I might look at it a little bit differently, but I'm concerned that it may not be. There
But
may
we
be
can
10
look
more
at those
coming.
when they come to us.
Yeah, I would have to say that, based on the experience that I've seen that the planning board has done prior to me being on here, okay? And being on now, that I think the planning board has been consistent with the project development that's with solar. Whether it was, you've always taken the mile under consideration, but it was always the view shed that was the biggest concern, which you addressed on every one of the solar projects, including the Salt Springs one,
Mhm.
that they couldn't. And therefore they withdrew their permit, okay? And we were consistent, landfill or not. I know I was on the town board at the time when that went through, but you've been consistent. And I would say that, you know, I know there's another one that came to us that was also in Kirkland. I'm not sure where that was, but we gave them a special year or 6 months to come back to us. And I don't know if that is in the queue or not, to be honest with you. But my concern is twofold. One is I agree with Rich, we just can't keep filling up Kirkville with solar farms, okay? But I also believe that if we're at the end of the line and we can still protect the neighbors' views, which I know they have gone really above and beyond the distance of what they originally agreed to, that I think that you know, the project does have some merit, you know, because of that. I don't see the saturation anymore going forward.
Lisa, where's that other project stand? Do you know? I know you keep track of them when they're supposed to pull the building permits and so.
Applying for a permit yet, that I can think of.
Are they still within the time limit?
Yeah.
How far is that from this project? I'm trying to remember where it is too. I can't remember.
The line Kirkville
That's on
Road.
Kirkville Road, it's not even close to this.
Oh, you're talking 3 miles.
Is it over on the other side of the
Yeah.
tracks?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's
Oh,
almost,
yeah,
it's
it's
almost
not
like Fremont.
Oh, it's that far.
Yeah.
Oh, way
Okay,
down.
okay, all right.
Yep.
So it's a good 3 miles.
Okay.
Ian, I'd like to ask you, what's your objection on the saturation thing? Specifically, what is it about it that you don't like?
I think there's a law in the books that says 1 mile. And I think That's what I'm following. Um,
So we don't-
I won't get into the particulars up to now, but I think they've been exceptional to work with. But I think if there's a law in the books that says that, it's within a mile, that's what I'm following.
But we didn't,
But the law says, under certain circumstances, as long as you delineate exactly what they are,
Right.
you can put it within a mile. I look at the Green Lake project and I'm saying it's virtually non-visible from going on Green Lake Road. And this one here, we asked them to pull the development from behind Mrs. Clark's house and remove it from behind her house. We asked them to remove it further off the road. They pretty much doubled the distance as to the distance off the road. They removed it considerably from away from her house. They put in all types of screening with trees everywhere.
They did.
They did everything we asked them to do to make that project smaller. And I think they diminished it by 3 acres. It was supposed to be a 40-acre project and now it's 37 acres. It's only visible to, I think, 4 houses, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's 5 or 6.
There's only 5 on the road, though. That's
Yeah, I understand that.
90%.
Okay, so it's visible only to possibly 5 houses. And you got the Bowman Road where it's visible to 106 houses. And the town says you need to proceed forward with these. Energy is critical.
I think if I could just make one more comment for saturation, because I think as a board that we pride ourselves on consistency. And so I'm going back to the CVE versus Townsend, those were within a mile of each other. And we were consistent, if we're consistent with what we decided there, we decided that there was significant screening.
That's a whole different ballgame there. I wouldn't even bring CB up
Why?
Why not?
because I
Why is it?
I think when-
ballgame?
I understand what you're saying. I would disagree with that because each project, if we're gonna discuss the 1 mile or less than 1 mile, each project has to be viewed on its own. We have to make a determination based on that project, not a previous project. And
Okay.
because we've accepted that on CVE.
Yeah, no, I know, we've said before, like, we want to be consistent, so I'm
Yeah.
just saying with developer to developer.
But I don't think
We
that
have
sets a
screening.
precedent where we have to. I think we still can look at each one
But I
individually.
want to make sure that Sharon can't see behind her house and the rest of her neighbors. Are we going to be able to block the view of that? That's our concern. My concern. I mean, from the road is one thing, but from the neighbors, from the house back.
I think they've done a good job of pushing it, pulling
That's
it
not
back far enough.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've had a good discussion on this, but I think we need to entertain a motion one way or the other.
With respect to the saturation.
With respect, this is
For the resolution.
specifically with respect to the saturation issue and whether or not we
I'll
should
make a
proceed.
motion that we have a finding to allow this, within the 1 mile rule for the law, for the solar project.
And that there is not a saturation issue.
And there's not a saturation issue.
I'll second that and I'd like discussion.
Motion by Valerie, second by Richard,
In the
and discuss.
and in the resolution, I would like in paragraph 3 under saturation, I would like the sentence to end after together. And remove and are viewed on both sides of residential developments.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
So the purpose of saturation provision of the town code is to ensure as best as possible that solar farms do not dominate one neighborhood by being placed at intervals that are too close together, period.
Yeah, not to.
I'm considering that as a motion to amend the motion,
Yes,
and therefore we have a motion to amend. Is that second?
I'll second that.
Second. Then we go forward with,
the first motion or the second motion?
no, we go forward with the second motion. The second is the same as the first with the exception of the amendment.
Okay.
So we got a motion made and second.
Jamie, where did that come from? The
That-
two sides of the river, both sides.
That I
of the
believe
river.
came from the preamble of the legislation
In our,
pertinent,
our
yeah,
town law.
yeah.
Okay,
But the motion I noted.
call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I didn't hear you, Valerie.
I'm not, I didn't say I.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm not for it. So one,
Richard, just so we know for the record, Richard, was that an aye or an
Aye.
aye?
This is for the
Edmund, aye.
amendment, correct?
Bernie?
Right.
I'm gonna go an aye as well. Okay, That's-
So that the part of the motion that determines saturation has determined that the relatively close proximity of the two solar farms to each other does not adversely affect the community character of the surrounding properties.
Right.
So the motion can,
all right. So the saturation issue is resolved, but the special use
What was the vote?
in favor.
four and two against.
You voted against that.
I thought we were voting for the amendment in the resolution.
The amendment was that saturation, yeah, the only thing that,
I want to vote on the saturation, but not amendment.
Yeah, the saturation
So-
motion is gone. It's the amended motion is,
Oh.
takes priority.
and
Which
my,
Robert's rules of evidence.
and my
Okay.
amended is
I
just
just wanted to
taking
be consistent with our town law.
It's,
that,
it's okay.
It's okay. Okay.
I do not believe that is in our town.
I
law.
don't think so. I'm surprised that,
Okay,
but anyway, we can.
Whatever.
Okay.
Did you-
I
It was-
apologize
it was
for
a-
the confusion.
It was a preamble,
Okay.
okay, to the legislation back then.
right.
Okay.
Did that change your vote or you
Yes,
4-2,
I'll change my vote. to aye.
5-1? Okay,
on the
may the record
saturation.
reflect that.
Mhm.
Special use permit criteria.
Yes.
Sorry, Jamie.
I'm fine.
No, it's
Good. We're flexible. Whereas this board has reviewed the OCPD determination of April 13, 2022 with respect to the project. And whereas this board issued a negative secret declaration for the project. And whereas each and every finding and determination heretofore set forth in this resolution is incorporated herein. And whereas the special use criterion is set forth in the town code is hereby reviewed. And as this project, it is determined as follows. Number one question, is the community protected from traffic congestion conflicts, flooding and excessive soil erosion, unnecessary noise, lighting and odors, wasteful energy use, and other forms of pollution?
Yes,
Does this plan protect the community from inappropriate design and other matters of scenic and aesthetic significance?
Yes.
the plan does, yes.
Does the plan ensure the proposed use will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the district in which it is proposed?
Yes.
Yes,
Can any adverse impact be mitigated with reasonable conditions?
yes.
Yes.
Are there any conditions?
No,
I don't think we had any special conditions because the screening was adequate with natural
Mhm.
vegetation.
the screening is outlined on your plan.
I think you do show some plantings too, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
it is. Especially in the updated one, there's now 3 sheets that outline the landscape plan
Okay,
instead of just.
I thought I saw that, yeah.
No.
I don't think so.
Does the project conform with the town's planning objectives?
Yes.
Yes, to our knowledge.
I think one of the finding is that it supports the town board objective of supporting renewable energy in a responsible way. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Determination, considering the findings, this board finds this solar array as proposed will not have an adverse effect on adjacent lands, the immediate neighborhood, or on the character of the community. And the special permit is therefore granted, and there are some usual conditions that we put on the solar arrays, and I will, it's nothing special except the Onondaga County Planning Board referral. Number one, the applicant shall fulfill all requirements of site plan approval as herein granted. The special permit and use allowed pursuant thereto shall be for a term of 15 years from the date of the certificate of completion is issued from the town for the project. Nothing herein shall in any manner limit the town's right to enforce any condition at any time in the case of non-compliance. That 15-year term is one that has been discussed on special permit, and I don't, the applicant probably wants to say something, they usually do.
We have a lease for longer than 15 years. It's renewable. The challenge here is really investors, like, in order to get a return on the money. We don't know that we will be able to build this from a dollars and cents perspective with a mere 15-year term.
We understand that, but you need to understand that this board has never given more than 15 years. You come back in 15 years and ask to have the special use permit renewed. And if everything is in compliance and where there's no complaints of what's going on, it's a given. But you need to come back in 15 years. This has been our policy, and unless somebody here thinks we should change it.
Well,
It was 7 years
It was.
forever until we got to the solar
Up
project.
to the solar. Yeah.
Is there I was just gonna say, perhaps could we put some language in the resolution indicating that this 15-year term is renewable?
That's a matter of law.
Yeah.
It might make investments.
Oh, it is not automatically renewable. That's
Right, of
correct.
course.
When it comes up for renewal, it comes up. for renewal. I see.
I will propose some language for the board. I think we did that in the last one, didn't we?
No, we
Yes,
explained it to them the
yes.
same way I just explained it just now.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe if we can modify this, I think on the last application, they did request something saying it wouldn't be arbitrary, or I can find that language in renewal. I don't know if I can find it in there.
Consent shall not be arbitrarily withheld language.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. It was pretty carefully constructed words. So
We have some more conditions.
I'm gonna, if I can put in here, council will draft language for inclusion in resolution indicating that non-renewal will not be arbitrary. And that way this can get passed this evening. Is that agreeable?
Will we get to see it or you're?
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
yes.
okay. All right.
For planning board review. And for inclusion, okay. Applicant shall have 1 year from the date hereof to pull a building/construction permit from the town, and the applicant shall complete the project within 2 years after pulling the permit, at which time the certificate of completion is issued. The applicant shall comply with all requirements of the host community agreement as entered into between the town board and the applicant. Is there a host community agreement? Not on this one.
No.
Okay. The board accepts the modification of the OCPB referral of April 13, 2022 as a condition of this approval. It reads as follows. The applicant is required to coordinate Kirkville Road North access plans with the Onondaga County Department of Transportation. The proposed driveway onto Kirkville Road North requires a highway access and work permits from the department and will be subject to the availability of the site distance. To further meet the department requirements, the applicant must submit a copy of the storm water prevention pollution prevention plan to the department for review, and any mitigation shall be complied with. The decommissioning plan for the array shall be approved by the town attorney, and a cash deposit for the decommissioning shall be deposited by the applicant with the town. Those are the conditions of site plan.
Should we add the engineer review also,
Um,
the decommissioning plan, so the engineer can look at the dollars and cents?
Yes.
That's very appropriate.
Okay.
Commissioning cost is going to be reviewed every so many years.
The decommissioning plan, the town attorney deals with, I don't deal with it, so I'm not quite sure what the final words of it are.
Question?
Yes, regarding the surety, I think it says, as it presently reads, it reads a cash deposit.
It does.
And a bond is something that we customarily
Useless.
recommend. And the bond amount increases, every 5 years, and it can be by a great bonding company. That's sort of our customary surety here, in order to ensure the decommissioning of the application.
I am totally opposed to bonds. Those bonds are 1-year agreements with the bonding company, insurance company, whatever. If premiums aren't paid, if the company disappears, all of a sudden that bond goes away too. We have always tried to get the cash, and to me anyway, bonds are useless
We actually,
over a
so
25-year period.
5-year bond. And we also are able to secure bonds that survive the, survive anything that would happen to the company. If the company goes belly up, the bond is still there. It's still there to be drawn on.
I've
So
never seen a
we can
bond.
get, we can get to that. I can get Jamie the language that establishes exactly that, and a letter from the surety company. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we've been using. I would recommend, again, this is going to be in Tim's bailiwick, and that we would say, unless the town attorney determines in reasonable discretion that another form of surety is adequate.
What happens if whatever the insurance company, what if they go belly up? You guys disappear, they disappear, what do we have?
These are reputable companies that have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years.
I'm still asking the question. What
Most
happens?
insurance companies.
What do we have at the end of the day?
Well, the insurance company would tell you, we would immediately need to post another form of security.
What if you're gone?
Well, if we are both gone simultaneously.
Well, no, you sell the company to somebody else.
Then that person immediately has to.
And if Jamie would like to include language in the resolution confirming that we have this obligation to ensure that the bond is continuing and unbroken, we can gladly comply with that.
That's an easy no vote for me, but go ahead.
Well, this is a proposed modification, and that would give Tim and the applicant the opportunity to come up with something that they would determine is reasonable. The decommissioning plan for the array shall be approved by the town attorney. That's not me, I'm not the town attorney. And town engineer, and a cash deposit for the decommissioning shall be deposited by the applicant with the town unless the town attorney determines in its reasonable discretion that another form of surety is adequate.
Can I ask a
We're gonna
question?
trust him?
No, I just,
Do
I don't trust.
Projects ask for cash, or is it gonna bond?
We had many projects where they were unable to obtain a bond, and they informed us they could not obtain a bond, and we went with cash, and it seemed to be one after another, we were doing cash deposits. However, I would emphasize the fact that our town code provides for bonding as well. And therefore, for us to refuse the bonding might be contrary to town code.
I think that that this language would take care of it, because then the town attorney can determine if there is something that's better than cash. And this board then is out of it, like many things
There
that
is
you are
nothing
considered.
better than cash.
Sorry. Get that.
Yeah, I think if you can get the word and the town attorney.
I think that wording covers things pretty well.
Yeah.
Richard.
But I know what you're saying. Wish I had it.
Okay,
So I just want to add the whereas clauses and read them out loud. Whereas Meltwater Solar LLC have applied to the town to construct a 5 megawatt ground mounted solar energy system on a 40-acre portion of a 108.28 acre parcel in a restricted agricultural zoning district located at 6101 Kirkville Road North, requiring special permit and site plan approval, and as more particularly described in the application of the applicant dated March 1, 2022, and is subsequently updated, modified, and supplemented. Whereas the planning board has been reviewing the project and has held a public hearing on both the site plan application and special permit application on March 28, 2022, and said public hearing has been completed and closed. And whereas after the close of the public hearing on or about May 18, 2022, this board received a petition from residents relative to the project. And whereas the board received a response from the applicant on or about May 19, 2022 in response to the petition. And whereas in addition to all other matters presented, the board has considered the petition and response. And whereas this board declared itself lead agency for seeker and declared this project type 1 under seeker. And whereas notice of intent to lead agency was sent to involved and interested agencies dated March 18, 2022, and no agency has objected to same. And whereas this board made a secret determination with respect to this project dated May 23, 2022, and determined that the project will have no significant negative environmental impacts, and therefore issued a negative secret declaration for the project. And whereas then we have the saturation language. Then we have the special permit language that we did. And then the conclusion is for site for special permit, and now a site, so that needs to be determined.
we need to proceed with the special use permit first.
Yes.
I would entertain a motion with respect to the special use permit.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ed. Second by Valerie. All in favor? Aye. Is my counting right? Ed, Valerie, Arnie, and myself. Okay,
Opposed? Are you gonna?
I have a real problem with that bond. I'm sorry, but I understand the language you put in, but the experience I've had with bonds and bonding companies, it's like an insurance policy. You don't make the premiums, it goes away. You know, I'm concerned. 25 years is a long time. Who knows what can happen in 25 years or 30 years, or however long this goes. And it is a serious concern of mine. But
no, I hear him and I understand where he's coming from. I do. But in the legal field, it's all bonded. Everything is bonded.
But there are different types of bonds and different types of lengths. First of all, I've never seen a 5-year bond. That surprises me. Typically, performance bonds are 1 year.
This isn't really a performance bond in the sense that you might see in connection with subdivision insurance, that sidewalks and lights go in. This is a bond that is intended to stick around for a long time.
What
The
type of
idea
bond?
being
What's
that-
the
idea
name
being
of it?
that the town could draw on it in the event that it stopped producing electricity and then needed to be withdrawn by the town. Right? After, of course, that we defaulted, assuming that we had some.
You know
What
the
type
name of the insurer.
We have a variety of bond companies that we work with. We can get you, grade A rated insurers and
And what type of bond is this? If it's not a performance bond,
it's a decommissioning.
is this
It's a
something
special kind of
specifically for solar projects, or is this something that?
There, all kinds of projects have to be removed. I mean, this is not, there's bit of language here where we have to remove our thing and make our project and make the land look the way it was. That's not unique to solar farms. It happens.
I understand mining, DEC has them on mines and that type of
Yeah,
thing. I
so
get it.
it's not unusual or crazy, kind of bond to secure.
And the bond will survive non-payment of premiums.
How does
and
that
allow
happen?
the
How does
town
that
to-
happen?
It's built into it. They charge higher premiums to essentially allow.
So if you make 3 years of premium payments, it's gonna last 25 years?
No, we make 3 years of premium payments and we stop paying. You would be under your rights to now draw on that facility and decommission it.
Maybe that should be in here.
Well, isn't it
Well,
gonna cost
the
more
way
money?
it currently is worded is that Tim Fratesky is gonna be making the determination, and he's gonna be using the type of language he wants to use to know that the town is protected.
Okay, but I like what he said, that if they make 3 years of premium payments and the bond goes away, we grab what's there
I will,
and decommission it in year number 3.
We can put language to that effect in our consent to language to that effect, that if we default on our bond obligations. the town
Tim would require that.
yes,
would-
so we'll translate that to the town attorney.
Okay, all right.
In light of that, the special use permit issue has been resolved, but now we have the last
Is
issue.
there a vote?
We voted.
Yeah, we voted
Did,
for the,
did you still vote negative, or are you changing your vote after discussion?
I will change my vote, but I'd like to be part of the process of reviewing, even though I'm not an
I
attorney.
already knew that.
All right.
we figured you would be on the phone with Tim
Okay,
to discuss it with him.
okay,
We have no problem with that.
okay, all right. I will change my vote to yes.
Okay, 5-1. The last issue is site plan. Do we need to have a discussion further about the site plan?
I think they did a great job with the site plan. They made the adjustments we asked them to.
Yeah.
They've stayed away from the homes.
That's the biggest challenge I think they've got.
They pulled back away from the roadway.
Yeah.
They pulled back away from behind the home. They've agreed to plant the trees, shrubbery to shield properties. And they've made the overall project 3 acres smaller. I appreciate the fact that you were willing to listen to us and follow our requests when you came in the second time with all revised maps. I was very pleased. So I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a
And
motion.
and do you have, I'd like to add the exact date of the final plan. Do you have that by any chance?
Yes.
Is it here?
Well, the exact date they were submitted.
On the plans?
Revised
There's
4/25.
and the date on the plan.
Last revision date is 4/25. What I've got.
You've got one 425?
I mean, look,
My brand new one is, it's 240.
425.
Oh,
Last revision.
Is that
425.
Okay, because I have April 13th, so. Thank you.
425.
Yep.
22.
So that motion would be, whereas each and every finding and determination hereto set forth in this resolution is incorporated herein. Whereas Onondaga County Planning Board forwarded a separate resolution relative to this. Oh, I see. Sorry, relative to site plan on this project, the OCPB resolution dated April 13, 2022. The site plan dated April 25th, 2022 is approved with the condition that the special use permit conditions are fulfilled, and further with the condition as noted in the Onondaga County Planning Board referral being the same condition as set forth in the referral relating to the special permit.
Rich made a motion, I'll second it.
Rich made a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ernie, we didn't hear you?
Aye.
Or were you a nay?
No, I'm for it.
Okay. Nay,
I think he's.
where are you coming from, man?
I don't know where I'm coming from.
She was nay on the special permit, probably.
You know, I think it all sounds great.
Okay, that almost sounded like an aye.
We're close to it.
All right, motion carries. Folks, we're gonna trust that you're gonna design this exactly the way you've laid out in these extensive plans. And again, we do appreciate the changes and modifications that you made to try to accommodate the neighborhood, to keep everything as far away from residents as possible. Good luck with the project.
Thank you, yes, I really appreciate all the time that you put into reviewing the project very thoroughly, raising these concerns from the beginning, so we could, address them together. I look forward to working with you all and the rest of the town to bring the project to fruition.
Okay,
Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Richard,
Make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
all in favor?
Aye.